Hey guys, welcome back to more homeowner association stories. In this video, an HOA sent a homeowner association cop to prevent me from using my private pool. Let's dive right into the story to find out what happened. About 2 years ago, I bought a new house with my wife. I had gotten a big chunk of money as some inheritance, and I figured that getting us out of the tiny place we were living in and into somewhere nicer would be a good use of the money. With the big down payment, the mortgage was manageable, and the difference between the two neighborhoods was insane. Where we used to live was not the nicest type of area in the world. I would not really call it the projects or the ghetto, but it was maybe just a step above that. The school district would not be a place we would want to send our future kids to, and the crime rate was just pretty high. We both have decent jobs, but going from renting to owning meant that a lot had to be saved before we could move. This new house is located in a good area and is beautiful. We have some lawn and yard, 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. For some people it might seem basic, but for us the place seemed like a mansion. And for the cherry on top of it all, there was a beautiful in-ground swimming pool in the backyard. I love swimming and being in the water, so the idea of getting to do that whenever I wanted seemed nice. Now, there is a gated community called Oakhaven Estates, name edited for privacy. We are not within them. We are outside the gates in what is considered a different neighborhood, and if you ask me, the main difference between the homes is just a buttload of more money being spent just for people to say that they are rich and in an exclusive type of place. I only mention them because Oakhaven Estates has an HOA connected with it, while my neighborhood has none. What I think of a bonus to being outside of those gates, of course. I learned fast that the HOA was annoying even for people that did not live within the gated community because of how overzealous they were about things. They wanted to keep tabs on anybody nearby, and I learned quickly how much of a pain they could really be. I spent a few weeks just unpacking and enjoying my life in the new house. I would go to work during the week, but once Friday hit, I had a weekend and an empty pool to enjoy. I went swimming pretty much every weekend and was not disturbed a single time until I was. I remember this weekend especially. It was scorching hot outside, the kind of heat that is just unbearable, and you cannot do anything else but try to find ways to cool off. My wife and I were both in the pool, just trying to fight off the heat and relax after a week of working. Before I knew it, there was a shadow and I looked up to see a man just in my backyard staring at my pool. My wife actually screamed. She was in so much shock. Me, what the hell are you doing in my backyard? You scared us. Bob, my name is Bob and I'm the HOA Police Compliance Officer. I work for Oakhaven Estates and handle people that are not following the guidelines. Me, okay, I mean that's all good and fine I guess, but doesn't explain why are you in my backyard? Shouldn't you be patrolling the estates if that's who you work for? Bob, like I said, I work with the HOA making sure people are following the rules. Unfortunately, there's an issue here. Me, an issue in my backyard? Bob, yes, this pool is clearly part of the Oakhaven Estates and the HOA. You on the other hand have not signed any paperwork or made payments for the HOA membership, and therefore you cannot use this pool. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and I really thought it was some new neighbor trying to punk us. But no, this guy was serious and trying to tell me that I could not use my own pool. I tried to make this guy see the common sense of it being in my yard and that being my property. He really was trying to convince me though that while my house was not part of the HOA technically, my pool was, and if I wanted to swim in it, I would have to be an HOA member. To add insult to, well, insult, he also decided to give me a fine. I was trying to not turn into a huge jerk and become one of those people demanding to speak to a manager or something, so I got out of the pool and asked Bob if he could wait a second while I went inside to get something. I had the folder with all the paperwork from us buying the house. I brought it outside and showed him the deed and the property survey we were given when we bought the house. He had the nerve to tell me that my documents were most likely faked. He started screaming that my wife had to leave the pool also because we were trespassing on HOA property. We complied at the time just to get Bob away from us and off our property. I know people will ask, so I will mention it here, that we did call the police and try to file a report. However, I don't know if it was them not caring or just not understanding what's going on. They told us if we had an issue with the HOA, we had to talk to them to deal with it. The issues with Bob got even worse as the days progressed, and he seemed to just be stalking out my house. He parked his little golf cart he used for patrol right on my property line, but not going over it, so I could not get him kicked off my property. He had a camera too and was taking pictures every single time I would try to go outside. My final straw with him was the fact that my mom tried to come and visit, and when she got out of her car, she was intercepted by Bob. He told her that she couldn't come onto the property because it was owned by the HOA. He did not succeed in keeping her from coming, but it just made things even more awkward. I tried speaking to the president of the HOA, who I will just name Karen. She did not want to listen to anything I said and just backed up Bob, claiming he was in the right. That if I did not like the HOA, I should have done my research before buying a home so close to the estates. Not to mention telling me that I better pay the fines that Bob has been sending me on almost a daily basis for not being a member. As for showing her the deed and property survey, she said the same thing that Bob did about me lying, and that she was gonna sue me if I did not follow the rules. This all took place in a very short period of time too, so I was not just sitting around doing nothing. It took about a week to find a lawyer who specialized in property disputes. I did not even know lawyers had such specific specialty areas of work. He sent a letter to the HOA along with my deed and property survey. He called it a cease and desist letter, which told them that they had to stop and leave me alone, or I was going to end up taking them to court. I had them on harassment charges, stalking, lying, and probably other things too. They 100% ignored the letter, and if anything, doubled down on what they had been doing. My lawyer told me to document everything, and if I could get pictures, it would be even better. I had a notebook by the time we got to court, with almost not a single day not having some kind of interaction recorded with either Bob or the HOA Karen. Also, I had brought all the fines they sent me just to show how excessive it was, because that was also a form of harassment. I was suing them mainly for harassment and felt like I had a good amount of evidence against them. The only defense they had was to try and show that what they did was valid and not harassment. Karen told her backward story about the property of my backyard belonging to the HOA, and since I was not a member, I could not use it. After hearing that and taking one look at everything, the judge came in and had made up her mind. She was not happy with Karen. Judge, this man's house is not even within the same neighborhood as your HOA. That is number one. Number two is that he owns the property, which means he can use it and you have no right to stop him, or even demand money from him to use it. That is extortion. Karen, but your honor, that land is within. Judge, it would be in your best interest not to interrupt me. Finally, the number of letters you sent him and the fact that you stalked out his house shows undeniable harassment. I am ruling in his favor. I was awarded a sum of cash for the harassment and they were forced to stay away from me. I did get a restraining order against the two of them. Basically, they could not come anymore or I would make sure they got arrested and sent to jail. But that is not where things end, because it gets even sweeter for me. They were forced to issue a public apology and retract every single fine they had sent me. Bob was fired from the HOA, but I feel like that was inevitable right after I heard that Karen was stepping down for so-called personal reasons. Which translates to she cost the HOA a ton of money because of this lawsuit and they were all furious at her. In celebration, I decided that I was gonna throw a pool party since the summer was getting close to the end anyway. I invited the new neighbors that I actually made friends with and not anybody from this gated community. I plan on enjoying my pool for many years to come, and if anybody wants to try and stop me again, I know where to find a good lawyer to help. And yeah, ripe stars, honestly, the one take you can get from all of these stories is, if someone like an HOA bullies you, it is very good to lawyer up and fight against them. Don't just take them at face value and let them harass you. You need to show them who is the boss. Anyway, the next one is titled, Husband's mistress was rude to me, so I ruined her favorite thing. Twice. And this is a story from r/petty revenge. And by the way, if you've enjoyed the story so far, please don't forget to like the video and leave some star emojis in the comments to show your support. Thank you so much. So a few years ago, I found out that my now ex-husband was having multiple affairs. I contacted the women in an attempt to figure out what was going on, timelines, etc. Most of the women were lovely and I held no contempt or anger for them. They were victims of lies and deception too. But one woman took a different approach. She was rude and abusive, accusing me of being controlling, frigid, fat, I'm only one of these things and it's not frigid, etc. Unfortunately, she was in Ireland and we were in Australia, so no chance to confront her. I tried to just move on and deal with my real problems, but I could not shake like the audacity of her. So I looked up her socials. She was hard out obsessed with Australian MasterChef, really obsessed. Being a fan myself, I knew that the show was aired and concluded in Oz before it was shown in Ireland, so I screenshotted the winning dish and mentioned her in a tweet containing the details of the winner and the runner-up and the winning dish photo. Then I set an alarm in my phone and did the exact same thing 1 year later. After the second spoiler, she put her Twitter account on private. And yeah, Ripe Stars, that is indeed some petty revenge, but honestly, that one did not really go far enough for me. Either way, the next one is titled, "My landlord thought he could pull one over on me, but ended up learning the meaning of, you should have read the fine print before you signed it." So for some context, I live in Germany, which has extremely strong tenants' rights. I have been living in my apartment for about 8 years now. About 1 year after I first moved in, I got a letter from the company that owns my apartment building. In short, it said this: "Dear Mr. X, we are cancelling your existing rental contract. If you wish to continue renting this apartment, please sign this new contract with higher rent or move out within 30 days. This scared the hell out of me. I was living in a city where the rent prices were skyrocketing and I had only just managed to find a long-term apartment I could afford. As soon as I began looking at my options, it became clear that I was either going to have to fight what was essentially an eviction or move back to the US and start building my life again just after I had finally found some stability. After I asked around a bit, someone tipped me off to something called a Mieterverein, which is essentially a non-profit group that advocates for tenants' rights and gives its members the opportunity to get legal advice regarding their rights as tenants. I looked up one near me and booked it over to their office. I explained my situation, filled out some paperwork and went to speak with the group's lawyer. I showed her the letter and my current contract and she looked over it for a few minutes without saying a word. After what felt like an eternity, she looked at me and said in her most diplomatic German legalese, "You have nothing to worry about. This letter is BS." Admittedly paraphrased, but that's what it boiled down to. She then turned to a page of the contract and pointed out a single line in it. "No changes be made to this contract unless both parties consent to the proposed changes." In other words, as long as I refuse to sign the new contract, they cannot do anything to me. The group's lawyer then sent a letter on my behalf to the company. I received a copy of it for my records and essentially it told the company that they would find themselves in some major trouble with the government if they continued to pursue the matter further. About a month went by and I heard nothing further. Then one day a letter from the company arrived. The company basically admitted defeat and tried to cover its tail by saying that the letter was sent in error by an employee who is no longer with the company. For the next 7 years, it became an annual ritual. The company sends ominous letter telling me I'm getting kicked out. I forward the letter to the Mieterverein and the Mieterverein's lawyer sends them a letter telling them to stick the letter where the sun does not shine. And then after attempt number 8, the lawyer sent them another letter telling them to cut the crap and stop sending these letters every year. I have not heard from them since. And the next one is titled, "Saw the boss who fired me yesterday and it's not going well for him." 3 years ago, I was fired from a stained glass studio where I worked as an artist, glass painter and designer for being vocal about company safety. The owner made me the safety person because I had come from a studio that took safety seriously. I read OSHA manuals and gave so many suggestions about unsafe practices we had in the studio, handling lead, acid and other dangerous materials. Then, after a few years of my suggestions being mostly ignored, someone, actually not me, called OSHA during the pandemic when my coworkers were not masking. The boss suspected it was me, since I was the most vocal about safety, and they rehired my replacement shortly thereafter, removed my safety person duties, and fired me after enough time had passed that it wouldn't look suspicious. They cited lack of work but had just hired someone and were firing me instead. It just does not add up. All in all though, this was a place where my contributions and expertise were largely unacknowledged and unappreciated. At the time I had been pursuing my own work as an artist. When I was fired, I had no idea how or if I would be able to make ends meet in Los Angeles, but I did. In fact, this firing was the best thing that could have happened for my career. Last night I saw this boss/owner at an event. The studio is apparently doing so poorly that he had to cut everyone's hours to 2 days a week. Many people are looking for new jobs and he said, "I heard you had a show." And yes, I actually have a solo show up with a major gallery, have more than 30k in savings and so much work on the horizon I'm booked through 2026. I said, "Yes, things are going really well," and flashed him a huge smile. Success is truly the best revenge. Edit. Obviously didn't expect this post to go so crazy, thanks to everyone who is sharing their own stories of living well after being fired from a bad job/toxic workplace. The number one comment I'm getting is, who tells someone how much they have in savings? Well, I didn't, I only said the part in quotes. My other info is for you, the reader, to know, to help you understand where I'm coming from. Honestly, I'm appalled at how many people lack basic reading comprehension skills, but here we are. Also, obviously, this boss did not tell me how bad the studio is doing. I learned that from former co-workers I saw at the event. The crazy thing is he literally cut hours that day, so everyone was still quite upset. Again, all that was said is in quotes. The next one is titled, Revenge on Company. A little background, I work in a call center of a bank. Every customer who calls us must answer a few verification questions, and if they hang up or answer wrong, we need to block their access to call center, assuming it was an attempt to use someone else's account. Then, if they call again, every employee will see that the access to call center is denied, and to do anything with their account, the caller has to personally go to the branch to unblock the access. And well, one time I was talking to a very rude customer who demanded everything done immediately. I told him I would happily do everything he asks for, but first he needs to answer the questions. He started yelling even louder, called me names, as well as saying that I'm unprofessional, and then hung up. So I blocked all of his access. Now he will be forced to go to the branch to unblock it, and only then he will be able to do what he wanted. And oops, he mentioned that he was abroad, could not go to the branch, and that's why he called us. He thought I was unprofessional, so I made sure I did everything according to our procedures, so he should be satisfied. My dear customer, enjoy not being able to use your money for a long time. And the next one is another petty revenge story. And please let me know in the comments, by the way, whether you enjoy petty revenge or not. I think they are like nice little snippets of revenge, and it's always fun to read them. I am 35 male and my dad 67 male, separated from my mom 68 female a couple years ago. He is a drunk and cheated for years. My mom found out that he had been traveling for work and actually had been meeting a girl, 40 female, from his old neighborhood. This girl knew that my dad was married, and once he moved out, he made his relationship with this woman official. They moved in together, and he even financed her new shoe business. My mom and my dad still have a business together. They're still married for insurance reasons, and they see each other every day. My sister still talks and has dinner with him once a month. He still drinks every weekend, and he asks my mom about how me and my sister are doing. Also, he still finds his way to get invited to the family Christmas parties, and pretty much nothing has changed for him, even though he cheated and left us. So I decided to cut him off my life because it enrages me so much that there are no consequences for what he did. I have no contact with him whatsoever. Every now and then he texts me for my birthday or when there is an important event in my life and asking me out for dinner, but I just don't answer. My dad is pretty much dead to me, so the other day I was at the mall and ran into him and his girlfriend. He said hi to me, gave me a hug, and when he was about to introduce me to his girlfriend, I pulled my best Addison Montgomery from Grey's Anatomy and went, "You must be the cheating Karen who's been screwing my dad." She was shocked, started crying, ran away, and my dad went after her. I received a lot of stares at the mall and then left. 2 days later, I've received many texts from my dad, my sister, and even my mom saying I should apologize to the woman, which I've ignored. And now one last story from r/petty revenge that you don't want to miss. It is titled, Steal My Table, Enjoy Paying My Bill. So many years ago, I was at a popular bar in my home city during a Saturday afternoon. I was sitting at a bench table on my own, enjoying my beer and burger alone and enjoying myself. Now, it gets fairly busy and sharing tables is not uncommon. A guy and his 2 mates asks to sit with me while they wait for another table. Since it is a sports bar, I was chill. He and his mate sat down and I thought that was that. Well, next thing I know, the other table leaves, and instead of the 3 of them moving to that table, 10 of his friends arrive. He asks me to leave and I said no, as I was there to watch an international rugby game. So basically now I am squashed in at this table. Let's call this table 21 going forward. I did not move and the guys kept on getting more drunk and ordering more food. I walk to the bar to get myself a drink and the barman says, "Which table?" I said, "Table 21. Every time a waiter ordered for them, I would grab the waiter and say, "Did you get the XYZ drink or the ABC steak?" Which they added on thinking it was for the table, but actually it was for me. The game and festivities went on for 7 hours. I had ordered 7 drinks, 3 starters and an extra main. For the sake of comparison, I only paid $20. The stuff I ordered was $50 on top of what I paid. Eventually I go get my bill, my table's bill, the original table, and saw my first drink and burger on it, so I pay it and go home. And yeah guys, thank you very much for watching. I will see you again tomorrow.